back in here. Finish part 2. Good day, family. Who's looking at this? Ooh, wow. And she told her friend, and they told their friend, and she told her friend. Is it live or is it Memorex? That's pretty cool. I'll just leave it there for now, right? We're in Rainbow Land. Much love to you and yours, family. Okay. I had to pop back in here. Yesterday we got cut off, and I had went for so long I didn't realize we were going that long. That was great. I was able to share the story about the female principal. And we're talking about the history of what that used to look like and what that morphed into. Okay. So today's going to be interesting. This is going to be part 2. I didn't realize that this information was so extensive, with my notes and stuff from all these books. And I even cut it short, some of it that I was reading. So that's so cool. So we're going to pick up today on the history, right, of how our image was morphed. What happened during that time period. What was it? 9 in between 970 BCE and 1500. Yesterday I said 1314, but we went into the 1500s. We got to see some things that were changing and morphing within the background of our history. We got to hear some of the names that were attached to I can't see anyone. I hope that we are okay. Much love to you and yours. This is Regina's Rabbit Hole, Siren Buddha Safa Medicine. That's Siren Buddha Medicine. You can catch me on the YouTube. Like, subscribe, share. This is part 2 of yesterday's message that I was sharing about the female principle and the way that it morphs and changes in our culture. Talking about the dance of energy, the dance of light. Okay, so when it's there, much love, family. We're talking about the male and female principle. We're talking about the usurping of the female energy. And what does that look like? What does that look like? I'm showing you the face that it took on for me through my research, where our ancestors led me to. This is really, really cool. So, a deacon is a person that initiates certain duties within a church. Where I got that from. Okay. It reminds me of decon, recon. Okay, so anyway, I got that definition from in here. Okay? And my nifty dictionary. Good day, beloved. We're talking about the female principle and the Shekinah. We're talking about the dance of light. We're talking about how the female principle has been usurped and what does that look like. And so I was just talking about the deacon and the bishop, right? And the servants of the Vatican and Parisian, the church, right? They have the duties split up to where the deacon answers to the hierarchy. So that's the hands-on person initiating mediation and making sure that the community, the church parish gets what they need. They work like a motherly or family type person, like a go-to person, right? And then we have the Daena, which is the Shekinah, okay, the Kundalini energy. So what I'm talking about is a dance of light. The difference between the embedding and the encoding is what's used to play on the unconscious mind, on the id part of the mind, on that part of our mind that is sleeping. Really need to watch part 1. So we do that through dreaming and through the creative space. That space is the female principle, and it rides on a wave, okay? It rides on a wave like the moon phases change the flow of water and the tides, like the moon phases change the way things grow and the lighting at night, right? Like the planetary adjustments in the sky, or the way that we see them, the effect of where they're positioned affects how things are planted and the timing, the season, like the equinoxes and stuff. So what I'm saying is that subtle energies, planetary energies, those are examples on how they do affect us and play a part in our lives, and how we can see that they make transitions. Okay, that's a wave of energy, of subtle energy, like the hairs on the back of your neck and stuff like that. Okay, so things started to change. To be sure, we should not minimize the role of economic relations. This is this book. This is the African origin of civilization, myth or reality. So to be sure, we should not minimize the role of economic relations between Egypt and Phoenicia. In explaining the loyalty which seems to have existed, one can also understand that Phoenician religion and beliefs are to some extent more replicants of Egypt's, okay? The stolen, usurped culture. Phoenician cosmetology is revealed in fragments of Sanchoniation, that's Sanchoniation, translated by Philo of Byblos and reported by Eusebius. According to these texts, in the beginning there was uncreated chaotic matter and perpetual disorder. Bogu, breath, and Ra hung over chaos. The union of the two principles was called Sephris, Cephets. I'm sure that I'm not pronouncing these appropriately, but Chephets, desire, which is at the origin of all creation. What impresses us here is the similarity between this chaotic trinity and the foundation and this cosmic trinity and that found in Egypt is reported by Amulenu. These names for an American. Wow. In his prolegomens. Y'all study another language. In Egyptian cosmology. Also, at the beginning, there was chaotic, uncreated matter. The primitive none, okay? None, nothingness, and Wolof. This primitive matter contained in the form of principles all possible beings. It also contained the God of potential development, Khepera. As soon as the primitive nothingness created Ra, the demiurge, its role ended. Henceforth, the thread would be unbroken until the advent of Osiris, Isis, and Horus, ancestors of Egyptians. The primitive trinity then moved from the scale of the universe to that of man, and as it did later in Christianity. After successive generations in Phoenician cosmology, we reach the ancestors of the Egyptians and Misor, who will engender Tot and vendor the science and letters. Tot is none other than Thought or Thor of the Egyptians. In the same cosmology, we reach Osiris and Canaan, forebearer of the Phoenicians. What I'm showing is how our deities and our ancestry is morphed. Yeah, wow, right? Phoenician cosmology reveals once again that kinship of Egyptians and Phoenicians, both of Cushite and Negro origin. This kinship is confirmed by the revelations of the Ra Shamura, ancient Ugarit on the Syrian coast. Okay? And towards the middle of the second millennium, that's 1450 BC, under the increasing pressure of white tribes who occupied the hitherland, and both the Phoenicians back toward the coast of the Sidonians. This is the history, okay? Founded first the Phoenician colonies in Boeotia, that's Boeotia, where they installed the excess population. Thus, Thebes was created, as well as Abydos, that's Abydos, and the Hellespont. The name Thebes confirms once again that the ethnic kinship of the Egyptians and the Phoenicians. We know, as a matter of fact, that the Thebes and the holy city of the Upper Egypt, from which the Phoenicians took the two black women who founded the oracles, Daena in Greece and Ammon in Libya. So what I'm showing here is the history of the female principal and the women who went into trance or communed with the spirit world and brought back information, and it was their duty to commune, to plug into the planet, and to be in that space where they were mediators. Okay. Now, this part is where you got to watch out, because not all information, take what you need and leave the rest when you're going through the different books and material, because you're not going to line up with everything. You know, I would tend to agree with the part in one of my books where it was talking about African history, where the women were all about the food. Once things changed and the men became more dominant, the women handled the food. And like in African culture, to a great degree, it's almost unheard of for a man to go into a woman's kitchen. We see a lot of that as far as the gender roles played out in America, where the man still asks for permission. Are you finished cooking that, hon? Or can I touch that? Can I have those buns? Or take a snack from something that you were still preparing, because the whole thing isn't ready yet. My grandma did that. I even wrote part of that in my play, a play that I wrote. My brain just goes back and forth. I can't remember the name of my own play off the top of my head, because it's switching things in my mind. But there's a play that I wrote, and it's about Thanksgiving, the black sheep of the family, and how when you have a difference in beliefs, and you go to the family dinner, how it's like you're the meal spiritually, you're the sacrifice, the black sheep, the one who doesn't line up with the spiritual principles and beliefs of the rest of the family members, So anyway, in that play, one of the poems, because it's a play on poems, prose play, that's what it's called, prose play, a play on words, a play of poems, and I wrote that, but I'm tweaking it. It's on, I think it's still on Amazon, but I'm still working on it, because I'm having some electronic issues, and I also noticed that you can't see yourself as the side note as much when you're doing your own editing, and I'm still meeting people, and stuff like that. I like to meet people as people, not people as resources first, so that part of self is still adjusting into plugging in economy-wise and getting certain things done. But that's the way I am as a female. We're talking about the female principle, how it looks different in our society, how they painted the picture of the woman in a female principle in an entirely different way than it actually is, and then they utilize that for themselves. Now, okay, I see that female principle being played out in our society in regards to food. So in one book it's saying that, and keeping in alignment spiritually with our cultural knowing and feeling. But here, although I agree with a lot of other stuff that it's saying, it says, at this point, we have indeed reached a period of demarcation, and the Indo-Euro world was freeing itself from the domination of the black Igbo Phoenician world, because there was a time, like I said, all was Asia, and melanated people dominated, and the technology was different. We actually were able to utilize the chi energy without using all these wires and lampposts and stuff like that. We didn't have to do that. There was a different way of plugging in that's been shut off from our comprehension, that we're coming back into knowing. Okay. This economic and political struggle, similar in all respects to that which colonial countries are now waging against modern imperialism, which supported, as it is today, by the cultural reaction caused by same reasons. To understand the orits of Aeschylus, that's Aeschylus, and visuals are a need, we must view them in the context of the cultural oppression instead of interpreting as Bachfun and others believe that's a name, and universal transition from matri to payatry. These works mark the encounter and conflict of two different concepts. So what they're saying is that in context of things changing, being in an intermediate period, right? Being within a time of change, that we have to take that into consideration when we hear about historical facts coming from their interpretation, because it's his story. So that was a buttery way of using all those words to say that. And then they go on to say, the one with the deep roots in the Eurasian plans and other embedded in the heart of Africa. At the onset of the latter, Mayartree dominated and spread throughout the Argean Mediterranean thanks to the Europe-Phoenician colonization of populations, sometimes even white populations, but those inconsistent culture permitted no possible reaction at the time. Thus was perhaps true of the Dacians and several of the Aragan groups. Yet the writers of antiquity enormously reported that these ideas never really penetrated the white world of the Northern Europe, which rejected them as soon as it could, as notions alien to its own cultural concepts. So, I'm reading that as evidence to say they rejected our female principles in the lineup and the stuff that we had, that we internalize as spirituality. Okay? And so this is where stuff started to get severed, you know? And so they took what they needed and they left the rest. Basically, they hijacked the female principle, you know, with a male-dominated spirit. This is the meaning of the Anid and the forms most foreign to the northern mentality. Pacto, that's Egypto, Phoenician culture, imperialism, hardly survived economic imperialism. Okay? It didn't just survive, and that's why we're telling his story. Okay? We were telling his story. He was telling his story, dictating his story, changing the storyline to us. The history of humanity will remain confused as long as we fail to distinguish between the two early cradles in which natural fashion subdivisions before they met each other after a long separation dating back to prehistoric times. The first of those cradles, as we shall see in the chapter of the Egyptians' contribution as the valley of the Nile from the Great Lakes of the Delta across the so-called Anglo-Egyptian Sudan. Okay? So this history is important to the world of Daecans and dance and Shekinah, a female energy. The wave, you know, that's attached to the moon. And as it has phases, and we can see examples of it move things across the earth, so does the female energy. It's part of the spin, right? keeping everything else on its axis is the female energy. The abundance of vital resources is secondary agricultural character. The specific conditions of the valley will engender in man, that is the Negro, a gentle, idealistic, peaceful nature, endowed with spirit of justice and gaiety. All these virtues were more or less indispensable or daily coexistence. This is the part I don't agree with. Obviously, a man was a pillar of the kind of life. Women's economic role was much less significant in the black agricultural societies. Consequently, a nomadic patriarchal family was the only embryo of social organization. The patriarchal principle would rule the whole life of the Indo-Europeans. Now, this time period is 1450. However, it's around the Greeks and the Aryans introduced to India after the 1450, and explains the cremation of Caesar and Gandhi in our own epoch. So it's explaining, some of the other influences within the culture during that time period. And it's also saying that because of the clash of the different cultures, right, that now we have a pushing out of where the women was more dominant as far as the agriculture in one setting that I was reading. And all of a sudden she isn't in this book. Now I see the perspective. See, that's where you would use your own insight and stuff in your research. I just wanted to point that out. Okay. So to me that's a wee bit of a discrepancy, but not so much so, because it's just not adding in. Anyway, I'm nitpicking. You got to be careful with that, the way that it was worded, because it's saying that the men dominate agriculture here. But in another book, it was saying that that was a thing for women because we knew about the healing roots and herbs. We knew about those sciences. We were plugged into the earth. That was part of our ministry as women, and the men was guarding and protecting stuff. Like, it's funny, I realized that as a person that likes to create, that you can create, and then what space are you going to keep it safe in? Who's going to keep it, you know what I'm saying? Who are you going to share it with? If you make a fireplace, who's going to want to put the logs on it and watch it burn with you and appreciate the essence of what that means? So that has to be in there. That's why the male and female energy is so important. So we're looking, and this is history. We're looking at how the female principle changed, and how once we accepted it widely as a part of ourselves, and we're more evenly yoked. Even in the interpretation of Pangu and the yin and the yang principle in regards to Pan, the androgynous being that was morphed into another being when it comes to Christianity. We still had a more balanced way of looking, a more therapeutic way of looking at the male and female principle. Why this is Africa, mother of Western civilization. And so there's a little story in here I'm share part of. There was also something I wanted to show you. Okay, about the images. Now I just read from this book. Why is image so important? it does something to you. It strikes something inside. Like a bell, a frequency. To be able to self-identify with culture, and with great culture at that, with people who were spiritual, with people whose essence was so embedded and thick that they could pick us apart like vultures and use pieces and stand on them instead of the whole thing. Think they had a meal. They had some crumbs. And it was so good. They got addicted to them. Vampires, parasitic vampires tried to bleed us dry. But we're a part of the earth. God is not dead. We're standing on it. We're breathing it. Who is it? To be able to see ourselves, not as some vicious, ignorant, docile thing flailing about taking up space, some useless eater, but as people where everything they did had a purpose. Even the freaking hairstyles was telling a story. The drum beat was telling a story. The clothing was telling a story. You couldn't keep us from telling a story. You still can't keep us from telling a story. Our ancestors from the ancient Earth history, from the ET history of the planet, right? This book I read from you yesterday. See some images. The dancing that we carried with us, that was embedded inside of us, the spirituality. The men who carried our spiritual principles in their hearts and beat that drum, even though they were being beaten on. How important that is to see yourself, to be able to have some kind of essence of yourself. Ever been in so much pain you need something to hold on to? And when you're hurting, you don't want nobody touching you that's hurting you. You don't want something fake. When you're hungry and you're starving for something real. What essence? We took to the dance, and the dance was morphed, and the interpretation of us was morphed, and the humiliation and the beatings and the fractured interpretations and meanings of our symbols, the degradation. So, we weren't really seeing ourselves, you know what I'm saying? Or we're a little sleepy. We didn't realize that our ancestors used something kind of like Mind Palace. Look that up, okay? Jim Quick used to be called the boy with the broken brain. Did you hear those crickets? Yeah. Because nobody is saying that mess now. Why? Because this guy is freaking brilliant. What? What did he do? What did he do? How did he beat the odds? What did he change? What did he not listen to? One of the things that he teaches is one of the skills that he learned in order to help him with his memory. They tell us if you're broken, you can't fix it, hang it up. While they're trying to break you. This dude did not listen. Go check him out. So, what this is a form of embedding, right? Basically this. You go around the house and you imagine things in your mind, and then you attach a memory to a particular object in a particular room, and you make like brain mapping. Okay? It's tricking your mind like body mapping, you know. I'm realizing a similar trait behind why someone would want to do something like that. But then when you look at it and you have an object like this, it's like implosion, and you just start laughing. Okay? Same thing. And what is this that I have shared with you before, family? We are the worlds. Because this is the tree of life. Okay? Whether it's flat earth, whether it's round earth, whether it's the symbol of earth that the Tao uses, okay? It's a hologram. So the way that we see it and depict it, it's still going to be earth. It's still going to be there. We're still going to connect it and interact with it and the way that we perceive it, right? So it really, as long as it's there when you go to it, you're straight, right? You want to go to Alaska or you want to come to Connecticut. But you look at this bad boy round or straight, or flat, or like the towel, you're going to end up where you wanted to go, right? You're going to end up where you wanted to go from here and see it the way you wanted to see it from here. You know what I'm saying? So, we are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So, let's start giving, right? Purging. The best thing that I can do is be the best, knowing that all is self, that you are me and I'm you. And I know what that means, not some cockamamie stuff with flowers and butterflies and stuff, right? You're the worst of me and the best of me. You're like the tale of two cities and stuff, you know what I'm saying? My casa su casa. You are truly my brother. I see myself. I accept my shadow. I accept my light. I accept my ebb and my flow, right? I accept my come and my go. I accept my ebb and my flow. You don't want to know, though. You didn't want the bad one. Anyway. So, the images of us, and within our dance and within our singing, man, come on, stop. Stop. Stop the madness. Stop it. This is not us. It's funny, man. It's funny. This is like some cartoon mess, man. They have a freaking nerve. You serious? Yo, Sasquatch, what you doing, man? What you doing? Yo, why you try to show my grandma like that? No, that ain't grandma. That's not grandma. That is some foolery. That is some ignorance. It is niggerish to stop yourself from progress by holding back that which you are jealous of. Don't be mad at us. You're already told on yourself. Now get it right. Clean that mess up. Get ready to meet your creator the right way. And realize that you've been just as duped as people feeling like they're nothing. As being people that are thinking that they're more something than they are. Depicting people with those kind of images. And then trying to squash any kind of productivity that they would produce. Deeming them and programming the rest of the populace and the feeling like they were useless eaters, which is further from the truth. The imagery, okay, has been blessed. This is us, our symbolism. This is us. People who see something like that and work their whole life be like, what? Oh no, I can't, I can't, I can't, no, I can't, hell no. Dr. Ben, beloved, it was like, I can't. I'm gonna tell my story. I'm a storyteller here. And one of the things that he put in here were parts and bits that we could relate to our story. And we're talking about the female principle and how it breaks down. So, this is one of the page 249 in this book. I must close the lecture essay and certain biblical citations dealing with the same Ethiopia of the continent of Al-Bulan. That's Alkebulan, the land where the gods love to be, according to the Egyptians' Book of the Dead of at least 4000 BC. It is there before befitting that I quote all the biblical historical data and part 3 of the Hatchett's article, Alleged Ethiopian Origins of Christianity. One of the stories he put here is, good day, family. Much love to you and yours. Thank you for joining me. About to read this little snippet here. It's fine print. Okay. Why is the story of the Ethiopian eunuch and his queen Cadence so pertinent to our thesis that Christianity had its origin in Ethiopia the 1st century AD? Supreme importance has been attached to the story of the Ethiopian eunuch because this episode is one of the tiny but historically plausible strands of knowledge upon which our central thesis rests. We are able to verify that the data of the Acts of the Apostles written by Luke, it is ca. 75 AD. Luke knew Philip and knew if he was employing the story to prove a point, i.e., spreading of the faith of the Gentiles. Spreading of the faith to the Gentiles. Those out of the faith to the Gentiles. Those outside the Jewish faith. How account for the specific reverence to the specific queen obviously known to enter Philip or Luke. It seems to the author that this is a historical passage rather than an allegory, and the conversion of the eunuch, which took place before the writing of Acts, and the subsequent events which took place after the conversion, squarely place the origin of Christianity in Ethiopia in the 1st century AD, long before the coming of Frumentus. That's Frumentis. Another extremely early and vulnerable source of information which sheds some light on central theses is to be found in ecclesiastics history. And from your Eusebius. That's Eusebius. Now, if I get these names wrong or I'm having difficulty pronouncing them, I'm spelling them so that you can go do your own research and look them up. Because one thing that I found is that as an American, I wasn't getting this information. And so as a starting point, when I wanted to find our history, when I wanted to find something credible or reputable, I had a difficult time finding out, well, where were these places? What am I looking at? What, you know what I'm saying? What am I looking for? I really didn't have a spot in my head to be able to look for something good, because everything that I was seeing had the programming on it that we were indoctrinated with, with these images that, places you don't want to be and things you don't want to do, or be a part of. And I wasn't understanding what they were doing and showing us. So I rejected, for a great part of my life, a great part of ourselves and our historical background, not knowing that they were doing this stuff to us. Warping our image and the meaning by way of his story, his interpretation of us, his perception of what we were doing and us as a people, as a being, as an entity, which is totally off, and reveals more now during this time of ascension about who they are as a people and what's in their hearts and minds and their own personal development on a spiritual tip than it does us. And reverse engineer that, okay? Because we do a lot of projection. You learn that in psychology too. How people project things onto you. That's what they're about. But they can't admit that. And that's part of our cleansing and purging process that we're doing right now. Okay, so the use bias was the article and accurate chronology of the faith. Part of his great claim to distinction is that when writing philosophy, he never neglects history or philosophy when writing history. Eusebius accepts the account of the Ethiopian eunuch in the Acts of the Apostles and makes this rather pointed assessment of it. While the saving preaching was daily progressing and growling, some providence brought from the land of the Ethiopians an officer of the queen of that land for nation for the nation, following ancestral customs, is still ruled by women. Tradition says that he who was the first of the Gentiles to receive from Philip by revelation the mysteries of the divine world and was the first fruits of the faithful throughout the world, was also the first to return to his native land and preach the gospel of the knowledge of God, of the universe, and the sojourn of our Savior, which gives life to men, so that by him was actually fulfilled the prophecy, which says, Ethiopia shall stretch out her hand to God. This passage also indicates that Eusebius was quite familiar with at least some of the Old Testament references to Ethiopia. On these two early sources and this background material introduced throughout it, can be contended that Christianity had its beginning in Ethiopia in the 1st century AD, and that was a matriarch. Women had a big role in participating and hearing from our Creator, and contributing to the spirituality and the culture of our community. Why was that taken? Why is that so important? Can you see why that's so important? That balance, to have that kind of balance. I'm not saying that the balance wasn't off, and there go, hence why we're having this difficulty with needing to regroup and repent and purge and all that kind of stuff right now during this time in history. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying as a reflection of what we've been through right now as a people in history, that to take a new look and to rearrange this whole thing, do a big major shift in the mind regarding the information, right? Because the planet is shifting, the energies are shifting. So we're shifting. History. So storytelling, that's why we carried it with us. It was us, it was our essence. We realized from this space how important it was to have our essence with us. And on another level, when you look at the extraterrestrial history of the planet, when you look at, scratch that, we're not going all the way there. Yeah, we went there. Okay, check out Dan Winters and the extraterrestrial history of the planet. Check out Bobby Hemmett and his story about hallowed earth, people inside the planet. Check out the story about the big head doctor and stuff. Take what you need and leave the rest, because it's like the telephone game, okay? Yesterday we talked about how folk-telling and storytelling was part of the essence of how we carried our stories, how we taught each other. That's how you program and tweak a society, a culture, is through storytelling, And so what happened is, within the usurping, you see Shakespeare, okay? You see the Bible. You see even in the example of how during the Council of Nicaea, they took an orchestration of what they wanted in order to initiate what they perceived they wanted society to look like. And it came from a very male-dominated perspective, because we were fighting. It was a spiritual warfare. It's always been a spiritual warfare. Okay? So they usurped the female principle in our stories and told it in their way. And then even if you look at the Apocrypha, that goes with that. And how they're finally, okay, well, we'll allow this then. But what about all, you weren't there, what about all the other books and stuff that were noted? All the other spiritual books. We heard Thor mentioned in here, but that's not included within those books. But that's a part of our history, and we see it being claimed even as a cartoon character, a hero. What do you call those? Comic books. Cosmic, I almost said cosmic. Yeah, comic books. We see it. So the history of how we carry the essences of ourselves with us. And in everything, a message. Even in the crowns meant something. Carving things in the side of the building in order to make them resonate a frequency or tell a story. Sewing things within our clothing to tell stories, to bring about a resonant frequency using herbs and fragrances and things like that. The mirth tree. Check out the ladies with the knowledge of the mirth tree. Healing the community. Mirth trees which grew in a Punt Guide's land were sacred to Hathor. And so far as she was the mistress of fragrance and was regarded as the Lady of Punt. And the Kaf Chafan Texas, the deceased wishes that he might receive a meal under the mirth tree near to Hathor. What do people mostly want when they die? They say a man that we see depicted, you know, his wife, his mother, people when they're in distress or they're on their deathbed, they still think about those things. The mouth and lips of the deceased were anointed with mirth that they might be pure for the enjoyment of sacrificial food. What kind of foods are we eating now? Sacrificial foods. Hathor herself anointed the dead that he might live in the west like Ra and eat at his offering table. Numerous tombs, paintings of the new kingdom show the cake of the urgent consisting of the fragrant resin on the head of the deceased. So the cake and what they did was symbolic of something else. It wasn't a meaningless shove a cake in your mouth because, hey, I might not be able to eat anymore. I'm going to eat this cake, okay? Everything we did was embedded and had meaning. I think that's so beautiful. We weren't just walking around aimlessly. We really took thought and precaution on what we did because we realized that energy never dies. It only transforms itself. And so we took ourselves with us. And so dance, among all peoples, dance was probably a sacred origin. Dance being a female thing. Dance being something that produces a frequency called Shekinah. And the Shekinah, I already explained, attached to the waters. And the waters attached to the moon phases, right? So when you see a symbol of the moon, and we're coming from a culture who was very spiritual and vast and ancient sciences and technologies and the use of alchemy, they knew, right? They knew because we didn't have the television. We were paying attention to other things. And when you pay attention to certain things, it breaks certain energies and frequencies to you, you know what I'm saying? They knew that too. Because they weren't part of the MK program, Born Identity movie. Okay. Dance. Among all peoples, dance was probably of sacred origin. According to the Roman author Lucian, and the Egyptians liked to express the secrets of their religion and dance. Yeah. During the processions of the men dancers appeared as the god. At the festival, the drunkenness at the festival, the drunkenness, the king danced at the festival of drunkenness, the king danced in the form of Shu in front of Hathor in order to expel her anger. To the goddess, the dance was the food of the heart. In the mortuary cult, dance became a symbol of hope and resurrection. What? Couldn't even get it out. What? This is from yesterday. Gasm. Are you as excited as me right now? See, this is why I stay by myself. Man. What they say they did on the ships, they made them dance. They didn't want to dance. They probably felt like they were dying. What is this ship? The Ba and the Ka. What is this symbol being used in the courtrooms? We had symbolism so that everything that we did was embedded and like moved energy. The ship wasn't just a ship, it was a symbol of other things. It was a symbol of us. The tree wasn't just a tree. It was a symbol of us. We could relate to it. We had plugged in and saw the fractals. We made them spin and plugged in and saw that all is self and saw that each small part was like a little dot. You know the artwork where they put the little dots, the pixels, and this computer and this hologram. And so back to this. This has a lot of beautiful images in it too. Dr. Ben talked about the importance of image when he was traveling. I like to catch the brothers when they go overseas and they're kind enough to spend the time to show us pictures. And you can still get a vibratory frequency off the picture if your heart is in the right place. And meditate. Like skim off the top. Kind of like when they copy something, but you can still feel it. What it would be like to actually be there and feel the residential vibratory frequency come off of these carvings. We knew that when you carve something, you could infuse energy into it because energy never dies, it only transforms. And these letters and these glyphs were a light code frequency because you don't lose the essences. This is Siren Bodhisattva medicine. This is talk therapy. This is medicine. This is our cultural medicine for everybody. See us the way we really are. We need to see us the way we really are. Anybody, regarding what direction that you're in, under the MK mind control programming, signal that's gone across the earth to maim a people and, badmouth them while sitting on their eggs is like crazy. Sitting on our stuff, utilizing our technology, our history, and the language, and the clothing, and the setup of the church, which is like a computer, which, it works like a computer, like a processor. And the Bible, the tent meeting, do your research, okay? The tent meeting was processioned in a way that would bring about the energies from these different tribes, because each of them carried with them a vibratory frequency. My mouth sometimes does not want to do what it's supposed to do. Vibratory frequency. Vibrationatory. There we go. Frequency. Okay. Gotta rule it out. Pronunciation is important for the grammar and the glamour, right? Ooh, isn't she pretty? She's a talking head. She tells a story. Look at that expression in those eyes. Really? Really? Me? Really? Look into my eyes. I have a rich history. I'm a queen. Even if I'm just an ordinary citizen, I had privy to some serious information. We were even doing surgery back then. They have sarcophaguses where you could see the holes that they had put in certain people's heads. They're still practicing that now in certain tribes as medicine to get rid of spirits, y'all. Okay, now that's where it gets interesting. Now the Tao, believed that and dis-ease. It's really interesting to see how the concept of energy and healing and certain things were segmented, they were fragmented, they were morphed into different things throughout culture and throughout history, depending on what that era or those people wanted to do at the time. You know what I'm saying? What they were doing with it. Look at what medicine is right now in our culture. Look at what it could be. Look at what it is. You see what I'm saying? It's weird to watch people play with magic. Well, you must think that you're the biggest, baddest monkey in town. Like the signifying monkey. You know, always start and jump thinking that you can walk out of it and not lose nothing. Not lose your tail. We lost our tail fighting with something. Fighting with ourselves. Fighting with ourselves. Fighting with our inner nature. Fighting with our demons. Bobby Hemmett and the stories that he articulates about inner earth beings tells a story about one group. I think it's the Eloi. They made another group kind of like a shadow in order to get rid of their stuff. You know what I'm saying? You know that nasty stuff that you be feeling? You're like, I don't feel like dealing with this. And you know what? I don't want to do the work to, you know, that I have to do to get rid of it. So I'm just going to take this nasty part inside of me and I'm going to infuse it into these other beings over there. You know what I'm saying? Like we had that kind of knowledge, the Chaldeans and stuff, to infuse energies and certain things in something else. So yeah, I'm not going to work on self or make sure that I don't have that. I'm just going to actually pull that energy out, put it over here. What did I say that they're doing to us as far as the usurping and the images and the things that we gravitate towards are the things like picking things off the tree, but only this is the lower tree. The desires, catering to all the weaknesses and desires and stuff like that. And then having the whole planet fine-tuned, literally, by way of frequency and vibration, away from the 432 hertz, into some other frequency where we're off balance. Okay? If that ain't true, check out the opera community and the stuff that they're doing with frequency and vibration and stuff like that, and Mozart. Check out how we snatched that back and put some funk on it with that New Orleans jazz. Okay? As part of our voodoo was medicine for the hoodoo that they was doing to you. That's you. That's you. The very powerful you that can step in some stuff. It took your very powerful stuff that we're supposed to be accountable for, that we weren't. We don't even want to know it. Oh, I didn't do anything wrong. You got the nerve to be talking about, we be talking about white folks, right? It's a little jokey. How our ancestors look at stuff. Energy never dies, it only transforms, and they don't play. So let me try to give you a clip. White folks stole our stuff. Somebody stole our stuff. We want our stuff back. We want our reparations. They got the nerve. That's one perspective, right? And our ancestors, wait, we're still on. White people say, that was my great-great-grandfather. That wasn't me. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. I got nothing to do with it. I'm not taking responsibility for that, although the energy is still there. So who's going to clean up the mess, right? And so us, we'll focus on that, but we don't want to see this. You can get with this, or you can get with that. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. Those weren't my people, for better or worse, for richer or poorer. And this mirage, this marriage, this dance called life between the male and female energies. Creativity and intellect. What are we in? A time of ascension. We're putting our big girl panties on right now. Our big girl pants. And all that jazz. The founders of civilization, for better or worse, accountability for who we are and what we did. And in the same way that they can piecemeal, pick things apart and take what they need and leave the rest, why can't I? Oh, why can't I? Somewhere over the rainbow, right? Why? We can. We can do it if we choose to. That's why it's decided Buddha medicine. Each one teach one. Because that's our duty. And so dance, I just read from there. That's why I was reading from here yesterday, putting the pieces together. Here we go. We're a reflection of light. They got the language from light, symbolism from light. Intellect comes from light, from being able to interpret a light code frequency. We are a composition of light code frequency, okay? That's the embedding. We knew about embedding. It's kind of like that palace thing. Mind palace. There's different ways that we have to remember things. The Pythagorean and the Feynman. This is some side notes. Feynman, Feynman, and the Pythagorean is Pythagorean technique. Different ways that we had to remember, but the one that struck out the most to me, that we use so commonly without realizing it, is the mind palace. And so, you know, Jim Quick was on a mission as one of his skills, just one of his many skills in his repertoire. You know, he can teach you how to do that on the master's class. Check them out. You know, I give you resources that take what you need and leave the rest. They're real people. Don't get caught up and looking at things in the way see, that's why the signifying monkey and our tails were so important. We depicted us as human, not as God, in a way where it didn't make any mistakes. And even in the Oguns, you have one of the gods who actually got drunk and created some creatures that were lesser than what he really actually wanted, and took responsibility from them. He's all dressed in white. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, pulling from all this section right now. I don't want to say the wrong name. Yeah, but so one of our African Ogun deities, actually, there's this, that's the story. That's one of his traits, as being an elder who made a mistake and then took accountability for it, because he created stuff that that got out of hand. Now, each ray of light has a principle. An essence vibrates at a frequency. It carries with it, within that essence, the ability to do different things, varying things. For instance, what color do I want to use? Yellow. Orange, a cleansing color, okay? And yellow, you know, your toroidal field, you can use them to focus on them, and even by looking at the color, because of the essence of it, it has a it's embedded. Looking at it is going to do what it do, okay? Because it's yellow. And then knowing that it's doing what it do when you look at it is a different kind of plug. Utilizing what you know, right, is a different way of connecting with the plug. Okay, now you have a different kind of relationship with it. And if it's a living, breathing thing, which color is, so to speak. Now this is an inanimate object, but the color is real. The color is still interacting with me in a real way, in a tangible way, okay? And so healing frequencies and color work like that. Color can be utilized as an alchemy, as a healing frequency. And so within this embedding, and in the things we carry with us, our stories, the folktelling, storytelling, the dance, the art, the jewelry, the clothing. We told stories. We brought our medicine. This is Siren Bodhisattva medicine. This is Regina's rabbit hole. This is talk therapy. The dances. They could tell what spirit was interacting with them via the dance, the foot movements, the body movements. To this day, in voodoo, the thing that they created to encapsulize and save our sacred arts, by hook or crook, by any means necessary, okay, are the different fractions and networks of that as well. So we don't want to claim certain things about ourselves because we've been taught certain things about ourselves. But that doesn't make them go away, because energy never dies, it only transforms. So the best way that I do it is to make sure that my intention is correct, and to go in pulling out what it is that I want according to that frequency and vibration. So you go in there with guns blazing and you're about the bull crap, what you think you're going to pull out of there? Out of that tube, out of that bag. Because you went in there with a corresponding frequency is going to resonate there. Okay? And so this is about truth during this time, about a frequency that's very pure. You want the finest, purest materials from the essences. And so if the beginning point is us, in this book it tells you about how the different Legba or Orishas, the different black deities would come out, right, through by way of possession, through the drums and the dancing. Okay? The beat of the drum we knew did something. Look what they did to the music. That drum beat and that beat comes, it freaking goes right through your body. You ain't stopping that. That's like 5G. But some people will stand right next to the speakers in the club. What? I was one of those girls. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Right up to the speaker. Back on the speaker. Anyway. Okay. Back up against the wall. Get on the speaker. That was kind of corny, but it was cute. Okay. This little book, we're still on history. His story. What about her story? Good day, beloved. Much love to you and yours. Milton, you said loan you $1,000? Well, first you would have to give me $1,000 so I even consider that, because I don't get a dime yet from doing this, love. It seems that we seem to all be broken in one form or another. But you can still give, okay? This is worth more than $1,000, okay? Take this and leave the rest. Okay. Shoot, I need to move out of my house. Okay? I could use that $1,000. Have a better environment to teach in. What? Y'all need to send me $1,000. Okay? Seriously. Disorder and Creation. This book is The Egyptian Myths, Guide to Ancient Gods and Legends. It's a little dirty. Like, I use my books occasionally for I'm glad when they have a little, I don't know, you know, you live with stuff, you know what I'm saying, and you wipe stuff on them and treat them cruelly like they're family, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, family? Okay. Yeah, and that's why I can call you family, is because I recognize, for better or worse, who we are. I know who I'm talking to. What? I've been around killers, pimps, hustlers, and crazy people my whole life. Matter of fact, I'm one of them. When you really look at things, are you vegan? You know? Anyway, I was going to go into the useless eater, pimps and hoes, you know what I'm saying, breakdown, but I don't know if y'all ready for that today. Should I? Sure, why not? Okay. The reason why it was so important to control the economy and the images is because it helps to control economy, right? We go out and we buy certain things because we want to plug in to a particular way. So that's why they say there's pimps and hoes, and there's the useless eater section, right? The way they have it is that if your name ain't all in caps and you don't have a business that makes money, right? Then you're part of the problem, not the solution, because you're pulling, you're sucking energy, you're vamping, you're parasitic. Now, if you have a business and a job and you're making jobs, then you become another part of this whole thing in the matrix, right? Because that plugs you into a whole different department when you're a business owner, okay? So that's a whole nother vein. So that's why they have that analogy there, is consumers and there's the consumer and the person who makes it, right? either you're capitalizing or you're buying. We go to the grocery store, we don't buy our own food. Okay? So from looking at things from that point of view, it keeps us in a needy disposition because we're not initiating. You know what I'm saying? We're gravitating toward, we're always reaching for what we need. And so if that stops giving, we'll be in trouble. And so that's the power of corporate. That's the power of controlling the image and being able to flow the currency where the currency is going. Where the mindset is going is the current in the heart of the community, because that's what makes sure that people buy toothpaste and perfume and wigs and pretty clothes and earrings. I made these, by the way. I'm also your sacred craftsman. This is reaching this rabbit hole. Got a lot going on. And in the fall, I like to make hats and say, what's under your cap? I think that we should all have something that's our own signature thing, that something that belongs to us solely, and not something that we bought that was mass produced. You know, I like to have my own resonant frequency, something that I can hold on to. Sometimes I go out there and my female energy is like, oh my gosh, because I feel like, you know, and I'm very empathic, so I feel very naked, and like everything is just going right through me. And it just feels horrible, you know? And the only thing that I have to hold on to is my truth and the real essences of what does that mean to me. I certainly don't want anything that makes me feel more violated. I gravitate toward my spirituality and what that means to me. You know, how the different essences break down and portray themselves in life. That's my current situation. That's my frame of mind. So I create certain things outside of the norm that we gravitate towards. Now, we heard of this name before. During the New Kingdom in about 1200 BC, there was an attempt at Thebes, to unify Egypt's main traditions under the god Amun as ultimate creator. This period is therefore a perfect standpoint from which to describe creation in more detail, as its texts provide the best insight into the Egyptian conception of where the world came from, while also incorporating the preferred traditions of the country's most important cult centers, predominantly those in Hermopolis, which focused on the 8 gods, odd god of the pre-creation universe. See below of the god Ptah, temple at Memphis, in which the spoken word brought all things into existence, and Heliopolis, in which the god Re, Atom, evolved from a single egg or seed into a physical world. Thus, in chapter drawing the work of the epidemiologist James P. Allen, and guide by quotations of the Ramessid hymn of Amun, a unique text that presents the collisions of Amun priesthoods, theological explorations. We will investigate the creation of the world. What do you see here? The boat, the scarab beetle. You see the boat. Where did Freudian come into contact with his concepts from? What culture did he initially pull his interpretation of psychology from? What does this say? God's responsibilities and limitations. What? What? God's responsibilities and limitations. Created in my image. Even if you see yourself in the image of God, did it say that God has responsibilities and limitations? Accountability? You mean I can't just go to the white man or to my mother or to somebody else and say, you made me do it, or you fix it? I'm not responsible? When I go to God, because I'm part of God, so it's like this round, right? Like I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to myself. If we influence each other in a counterproductive way, then we can very well influence each other in a productive way. Because when I mean that evil stuff, you're going to feel it. I come with the lightning and thunder, and I mean it, you're going to feel it. And we know that all too well, right? Anybody can get angry and show you that they feel something. Make you feel something, because I feel something. And we can just keep it going, because sick people make more sick people. They say hurt people, yeah, right? It makes sense. It makes sense. Does it? It does. It makes sense. It makes money. That's the current situation, and that's what they're basing the economy on. You can buy guns and clubs and billy goats. Are you vegan? Are you vegetarian? Those little side jokes. Just like people, the gods have roles and responsibility, jobs in the cosmos that only they could perform, as well as limitations. The gods of ancient Egypt were not omniscient and not omnipotent, but they could manifest themselves in different forms simultaneously, allowing them to remain in the sky or the afterlife realm of the Daut, that's D-U-A-T, whilst sending their Bayou souls, that's B-A-U, or personalities to appear on earth. Through the gods or Ba or Bayou, you could feel his force, but their deity proper always remained distant, to be mounted by spirit. The deacons are initiating the will of God, the will of the church. The deacons with the dresses on, the bishops and stuff like that, with the usurping our culture and the female principle aspect of our culture, that we rejected ourselves. We don't see ourselves because we've been brainwashed. It's that Born Identity movie. We've been running through our minds all day and not seeing a doggone thing about what's been going on. And we reject ourselves, right? So let's go into the deacons. Powerful stuff. Powerful. And also very vulnerable. Very human. Very real. And some of us are very capable of being mounted, being under possession, of carrying with a spirit, for better or worse. We've been allowing, through ignorance, the worstment. Okay? There's a lot of people under possession, and it ain't good. It don't look good. It don't look cute, buddy. Right? It's not a good look. You know? That's why we're cleaning it up. Then you can get with this and you can get with that. You know, it's a choice. You know? We got the camel. Camel. Okay. The Daena meaning. We're at this book. Dictionary of Symbols are making quite a dent. Yes, we're getting there. Is it good for you? It's good for me. I love it. I love it. I'm your girl. Loving it. What? This is Siren Bodhisattva Medicine. Grandma is in the house. The grandma is here. What? Okay. Right there, where my little pinky is, right there. Check out that pink moon. Oh my gosh, it was beautiful. I got some footage of it on my Facebook down there. Just like, you know, scroll down, there's a lot of good stuff. Okay. I knew I left that book again. Hold on it. The Daena. Like Dane. In ancient Iranian religion, the Daena symbolized the feminine principle, anima, the human spirit, while at the same time identifying it with the sum of the actions, good and bad, that man performs during his life. She's so unpredictable. On the third day, after his death, the man performed during his life. Wait. Let's read this again. In ancient Iranian religion, the Daena symbolized the female principle, the anima of the human spirit, while at the same time identifying it with the sum of the actions, good and bad, that man performs during his life. On the third day after his death, the man is greeted on a bridge of Savant by a wondrously beautiful young girl, the Daena, who becomes united with him for eternity, the essence, right? Thus reconstructing the primordial androgen, that thing that he was missing his entire life, by being on this hellish existence where we're fragmented, not realizing who we are. On a higher plane, the Kabbalah needed to give reality to the principle of the eternal and feminine, and gave the name of Shekinah to the feminine aspect of God. The Shekinah is a complex entity, possibly one of Jehovah's angels or Jehovah himself. In every case, it is loved. It is the loved one referred to in the Song of Solomon. Please pay attention. This gets really, really, really good. In Serpent Doctrine in Israel, 1913, points out that this spiritual principle bears no relation to that represented by the Virgin Mary of Christianity, but is related rather to the Holy Spirit of the Trinity. There's a usurping and the misconstruing of the essences of what we were utilizing as symbolism in order to, for many different reasons, remember, experience, inhabit, hope that it mounted us, that we, you know what I'm saying? To carry the traits or principles of. He observes that it's alchemy. Same thing as putting the cross on your neck or carrying your Bible around. Okay, it's a resonant frequency that that particular thing that you're doing carries with it. But we don't want to know that. We just want to walk through Washington, D.C. and not even realize the vibrational frequency you know, the resonance that it's carrying, and not even notice the different symbolism and stuff like that that's being utilized. You know, just keep our head in the sand. He observes that the Shekinah is the angel who comes to the aid of those just men who are suffering, above all if they are suffering for love, and that her work and the soul is androgynous to that of the soul of the body. The Daena, as has been stated, does not obtain such an elevated position in the hierarchy, and should rather be identified with the Jungian anima. Now, this is synonymous with mermaids, the siren stuff. But as I shared once before, they share the negative side of the sirens, all the spooky stories. She's killing soldiers, sailors and all that kind of stuff, and not the saving of people and warning them, you know, saving them from a worse fate or death, or being victims of men, or the mermaids who, the little mermaid, fall in love with men and take risk for love, you know, to take risk for something that was considered a counterpart, a part of yourself, even though it didn't realize that it was, kind of stuff within those tales and fables, right? Dance has the aspect of the Shekinah. We have the dance of light, the dance of the zodiac. Around the mulberry pole, dancing around the pole, sticking a pole in the fire. Remember part 1? Some of the stories that I read to you about the slaves, when they danced, when they were made to dance, by way of the cat o' nine tails. They had the nerve. In Egypt, the cat was a sacred animal. Got rid of rats and stuff. They knew what the freak they were doing. Oh, the cat is your protector? Dance. It's our protector now. We're going to make sure our cargo is healthy. We got a cat o' nine to whip on your behind while them ankles is on your, why those irons and ankles are on your lapels and ankles, right? The Daecans. And astrology. I gotta go here. Each zodiac sign has within it embodies a person. At your date of birth, you were born under a sign, and within that sign, you were allotted certain principles and traits. Okay, if you look at astrology and you get a reading done, whether you believe it or not, whether you're into it or not, the light code frequency that was poured out to your mama and papa was given to you by our Creator. You know, as if you went for a handout, or you were given, you joined the army, you know, and they give you your little stack of stuff that you're supposed to have, and everybody gets the same thing. A couple of pairs of pants, a jacket, some socks, you know what I'm saying? A pillow, a blanket. Get out of here. Some sheets to put on the bed. Get a pair of shoes, right? You may get a musket and, you know what I'm saying, some tools, a French army knife, a flask for a bottle of water. You get some stuff that you're going to need for the war. This is spiritual warfare. So when we're born, our parents were already here, whether they knew it or not. They were already joined up for the party and did what they did. So here you come with your composition of light, born under that particular sign, an array of light. That composition is what puts you under an Aquarius or Scorpio or Gemini, right? So you're allotted by way of that sign certain traits and abilities that turn out to be talents and abilities that turn into coin. Okay? So that scripture or that story in the Bible I love so much, where the master gives his people a different amount of coin, of currency. One takes his, no, he gives them all currency. He gives them all the same currency. And they each decide, by way of their mentality, the story of the parable of the coins and the talents. Each one of them, according to their mentality, according to their disposition, how they look at life, decides to do something different with his coin. What am I to do with it? One took it and buried it in the earth because he was afraid to go and compete, that somebody might take it from him. But see, the Creator thought, I could have did that myself. You know, I already had it here. If I wanted to take it and bury it somewhere, I didn't have to give it to you. I could have kept it in the storehouse. But the other ones took to do a little bit more with their talents and abilities according to the essences of what they had inside it. There were a lot of, due to their talents and abilities under their zodiac sign. They didn't tell you that part of the story in America under the way that those were written there and given to us, because we wasn't at the council on the seal, you know what I'm saying? Okay, but reading between the lines, I'm trying to give back some of that part, the essences that was lost during this telephone game that we're playing. When our essences and our stories travel, right, we lose part of the wave, part of the essences on one side or another. With you can get with this and you can get with that. So, yeah. Dance of the Zodiac. This was suggested reading material from one of my teachers, Santos Bonacci, on YouTube. Really great at astrology. Really great at teaching life lessons. If you pay attention, you realize that all is self. We're all learning our lessons. We're all here to have a human experience. Get over it. Take what you need, leave the rest. And this guy is dynamite. I give him references and sources and breaking things down in regards to the synchronicity of astrology. And the rest is between a person and their maker. What? Like, my husband cannot answer for me. I don't believe that. And I cannot answer for him. I don't believe that. However, right now, during this life process, we can answer for each other and exchange some energy and try to get it right. Right? We can do whatever we want right here while the party's going on. But when they turn the lights out and they kick you out the house, they say, you know, I don't care where you're going to go, but you got to get out of here. And you're like, yeah, but my husband's over there. Well, we're not kicking him out, kid. It's all you. You're born by yourself. You'll answer in the afterlife by yourself for your own stuff. I wrote a poem about that too. Deacons, a fluctuation of light. You're a composition of light, and you have a sector, a zone, a vector. Come from a womb space. That's a vector. Charlie. Ignore the rest of the stuff on this page and just look at the way these notches go, okay? This is the way the notches go. So this is you. This is Cancer, okay? And there's a notch in the middle and a notch, a little piece of pie, okay? This is the Deacon, okay? This is you as a sign, as Cancer under this sign. And then you have these notches that are particular traits, assets, and abilities within the sign. Also, they fall under, like the moon, the phases. Slice that down, and there's different attributes, abilities, downfalls, and as well with that, okay? So that's more, you look at yourself on a macro. I'm just a Cancer, right? But I mean, on a micro, I'm Cancer. And then you even get into more detail, and you get a reading. You know you got some positive traits and stuff. Bada bing, bada boom. You got a little money. You decide to do something with the talents and abilities that your Creator gave you, according to the composition of light that you were allotted during your time of birth, your date of birth. Okay? And the Vatican knows about that stuff with their paper balls. They have paper balls. These things, they do dark magic. They use our ancient sciences and magic in order to keep themselves in a position to keep sucking off of the disposition of the community, of the populace, of the ignorance of us, not knowing one way or the other. You know what I'm saying? Depicting yourself as too brilliant or too ignorant. Ego in a reverse direction is still ego. It's reversed ego. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm nothing. Oh, I'm the shit. I'm perfect. I'm the one. I'm the best. It's all us. Those are two opposite ends of the spectrum. And they're both ego. One doesn't have to take accountability, and the other one gets to be narcissistic. And that's one of the reasons why we're out of control. The patterns of the three holy Trinity occur everywhere, and as the ancient astrologers observed, they even occur within the monthly cycles of each zodiac sign, observing variances in the traits and personalities of each sign. Astrologers conclude that the cardinal, fixed, and mutable model changes also occur in their sequential order. Within each 10-degree segment or decan of each 30-degree sign, each snippet of a zodiac is 30 degrees. You are 30 degrees. You can get a 30-degree gleam of that perspective all up in you. 30 degrees. A lot of 30 degrees of a perspective. And if you can see, like Anansi, and weave, that if I get with you and we get together, that's 60. Because I'm listening to each other, we're cohabitating, right? So we're moving the energy. Now we have able to move these walls, these perceptions, this veil. Now we got 60 degree. And if we get with somebody else and make a trinity, what? Now we can see a larger perspective. When we section each other off, you're only seeing this. What do I look like to you if I just came on like this and talk to you about the Daecans? Today, I want to talk to you about the Daecans. Yes. And you never met me before. How would that go? So we get 30 degrees, okay? This support the general thesis that any creative intent must evolve from the orderly unfolding of these three modes of action. The first decan fully derives the mode of the sign in which it is placed. The second decan, 10 to 19 degrees, injects the qualities of the next mode of the element. The third decan, 20 to 30 degrees, displays the traits of the final mode and the sign of the element. That concept is best observed in the sun sign, but it also occurs in the changing degrees of the moon and the rising sign. We start with the fire signs, and they did a breakdown. I just put my eyebrows that I had to draw on. See my eyebrows across, but don't pay attention to that. Look at these guys. See these guys here. Those are the fluctuations, okay? So just like the chakras, right? It's not really all one color. It's got traits and attributes of other reflections and pieces and stuff. Oh, I didn't bring that one up here. Oh, there's a few books that are really cool that I just didn't even bring them up here. It's not like we need them. We have plenty of information. I'm sure, you know, some of you are on overload, you know, and some of you ain't. You're troopers. That's why you're here. You know what I'm saying? You're like me. You go in. This is what you do for fun. This is what you are. This is what you enjoy and what you love. For others, it's about, you know, even certain things. I do this because I love it. I do this because it's who I am. I do this because a spirit inside me tells me when and to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's essence. What's your essence? What are you supposed to be doing? Because there's things that for the life of me, I try to do. I just don't seem to be able to get it right. It's not part of my thing. I need somebody else with that 30 degree. And that's how we work together. Okay, so that whole thing is a big plate in the sky. That is this. We are the world. The world is a depiction of the tree. Okay? It's fractal. Okay? So you have the tree of life, you have the chakra system, you have the earth frequencies and resonance that correspond with the different places, right? You have the embedding that we weren't understanding is a real thing, okay? Like if you go to someplace and it's resonating with a female energy, you would feel that. If you go someplace and it's resonating with some other kind of energy, you feel that. And that's the Shekinah. It's like the moon phase. It's the female principle. I need some more tea. I'm almost finished. I want to finish. Dance. Back here. The corporeal image of given process or becoming, or of the passage of time. In Hindu doctrine, the dance of Shiva and his role as a Netrija, the king of the cosmos dance, symbolizes the union of space and time within evolution. What? I thought we were just jiggling and making all this movements that didn't mean anything. And according to this, if you get a little booze in you, or if you can get yourself in a space of flow even without alcohol, that you can be mounted or possessed by spirit. And the way that these people who study the voodoo knew this is because they were able to identify the different spiritual deities through the dances as if they had came with them from Africa or with them from that ancient place, through their bodies right into the slavery, dance with them with those chains on, and dance with them at the fire with the pole and the fire, and dance with them. So they've morphed it and changed it, so we took all the value and beauty and sacredness out of it. Sucked it all out, did they? Sucked it all out like vampires, they did. Yes, they did. Sure enough. Gotta put it back. Gotta put it back. Ooh, yeah. Feels good, right? That's the Shekinah. That's the female principle. And it's clean and refreshing. It's spiritual. It's sacred. It's your mama. She came in there. It's the energy. It's an energy. And it means so much more than, you know, big lips and big eyes and a booty and a smile. It's what stands before our Creator. It's what stands before our enemy. that part that no matter how mutated and degraded they try to make it, and they say, your God is dead, it still lives because the composition it knows is God. Its composition belongs to the Most High, which is the reason why its composition and the things that come from its composition are most coveted to this day. Give me a good nigga sticker. I like that sticker. No, I don't like that sticker. I like when I'm goofy thinking of that sticker, but I'm not ignorant. I'm not ignorant at all. But maybe for some things, you know what I'm saying? There's always a blind spot. Be aware of that. You know what I'm saying? Somebody might have that sticker on me. But it looked cute in the video. I think that was just so cute. Good day, beloved. Okay. This is why the dance is one of the most ancient forms of magic. Every dance is a pantomime of a metamorphosis, and so calls for a mask to facilitate and conceal the transformation, which seeks to change the dancer into a god, a demon, or some other chosen form of existence. Chosen form of existence. Channeling, becoming possessed, opening oneself up to what there is already there, what they're already made up of. They go to the nightclub, y'all, and they play the music that's off, and they play them beats that go straight into your soul, and they play them words that we're not even listening to, mumbling to you and stuff like they go straight into your brain. What are they saying? I don't care what it sounds good. I'm gonna go home messing with the Shekinah. We never get to the good part. We never get to the center of the Tootsie Roll Pop. Remember that commercial where the owl is like, how many licks does it take to get to the center of the Tootsie Roll? And it's like, I don't know. Because he couldn't wait. He couldn't wait. He had no discipline at all, right? There was no spiritual development in that at all. But for this, to get to the good part, right? To get to the good stuff, the sweet smelling stuff, not the funky stuff, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some purging. It's going to take some rearranging things in our minds and hearts to see what was done and to get angry with it so that we can pull back from some of the things that they've been doing that we've been enjoying because we've been taking part and being mounted by those particular spirits by design, because we didn't know what it was. We thought this was civilization, this was life, this was choice. But now we figure out that somebody is doing you an okie doke, right? Which seeks to change the dancer into a god, a demon, or some other chosen form of existence. Its function is in consents, cosmogonic, cosmogonic. The dance is the incarnation of ethereal energy. This is the meaning of the circle of flames surrounding the dance of Shiva. Dances performed by the people with linked arms symbolize the cosmic matrimony, or the union of heaven and earth. The chain symbol, and in this way they facilitate the union of man and wife. Dialectic, magnetic, energy. Makes the ions that's what this book was talking about that I was reading out of to you yesterday. The dances and how they were able to have hope. So you imagine going somewhere and seeing, you know what I'm saying? You grew up with these things as tradition, but now you're somewhere and they're telling you, they take your guys and take your information and you see a civilization that you're actually building with your stuff, with your sciences, with the things that, you know, that come from the essences of your people. And you being whipped and beat and treated like you're ignorant. You don't know the language. So that's totally, you know what I'm saying? They get to dictate, they get to narrate the story. They get to dictate society. What is intelligence? What's IQ? What's ugly? What's prestigious? And over time you forget. You just forget. You forget it's your stuff and that you're beautiful. The female principle is not a dirty, ugly thing. The men have it and the women have the male principle. For instance, teaching and intellect. The male and female energy is a dance alone, dearly beloved. A dance called life. What we've been through. Well, we lost ourselves. Thank goodness we can find ourselves, right? And so, the Daecans. Egyptian hieroglyphs. This is the page I'm going to be reading from. The Egyptians were the first to divide the day into 24 hours. Of each 24 hour, 12 hours were for the day and 12 for the night. Each hour had its own religious or practical name. Each hour, right? There were no precise instruments or measuring the hours. For measuring the hours, the summertime, the hours of the day were longer, and those of the wintertime hours received such names as the time of perfume of the month, midday meal, summer hour, and time of the night hour. To write fourth hour of the night instead of designation such as, instead of writing a designation such as 10 o'clock p.m. The Egyptian would say, I don't know how to pronounce that, y'all. I just, yeah, we can't pronounce that one. I can't even spell it out to you. A star, circle, pot, cloud, rain. No. Lastly, the Egyptians divided the year into Daecans. What? I said all that to say. The Daecans, y'all. The initiators of the female principle. And the way that somebody took it and morphed it into a symbol with a name, or they're actually utilizing some of the energy of this. Lastly, the Egyptians divided the year into Daecans, or tens, giving identification to every 10-day period. Each was recognized because it was measured by the rising of a particular constellation during the night, when the Daecans was due. This divided the year into 36 parts, presenting present day. This divided the year into 36 parts, present day. Astrologers still employ the same system originated so long ago. Daecans. And so now that we've made the connection that the Daecans are synonymous with the zodiac, and the zodiac is also synonymous with us, and the things that we use daily, like I recall yesterday with the days of the week and stuff like that, we're using these things. It brings us to a deeper magic, which is, it's not nothing that they morphed the concept of. It's very meaningful. Something simple like dance, we've been taught mind control to believe that it really doesn't have a significance. Matter of fact, spiritually, they tell some people, some denominations or churches, or even throughout history, have told people do not dance. That it's evil, right? Dance is evil. But the pastor is God. All right. Now we're going to look at, did I bring that book? Yes, I did. Okay. All right. This is the Book of Angels. We're talking about embedding. And in the same way that a light code frequency can be broken down into a meaning, a principle, a healing modality, or something to harm someone, because it's a living thing, it's an entity, okay? And the way we interact it, we interface with it, depends on what we're looking for, what we, you can get with this or you can get with that. Like, how are we interfacing with it, okay? With these spirits, with these entities, with ourselves, with the things that our world are made of, that we're made of, okay? Because it's fractal. Daecans of the zodiac, 36 degrees dividing 12 signs of the zodiac. The Daecans have ruling angles. In the Testament of Solomon, the deities of the Daecans are reduced to secondary demons. King Solomon summons them to appear before him for integration, to learn what they do and their names of the angels whom thwart him. Now, angels can also be considered as demons. That's what I'm saying. It's the interpretation through culture, depending on the culture that you're in, and the interpretation they gave to these energies depends on their intention. Were they trying to control you in one form or another? Where are you located geographically? And it's not that in one form or another this information about melanated people and our story has not been suppressed in one form or another, because you're going to find that no matter where you are. But it's how much of the suppression, how much degradation that they add on to an already sophisticatingly, triflingly painful situation, right? What? What did she say? Just rewind it. It's tech is good. They appear with heads and formless. They appear with heads of formless dogs, and also as humans, bulls, dragons, bird faces, beasts, and sphinx. The demons are by order of Daecan. So not only do we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but we have 30 days of the week, and within each one of those days we have 10-degree segments. And within those 10-degree segments, we have stuff like this going on. All right. I put these little notches here because these are the 36 that are named here. And I took the little notches and sectioned them off into threes. I did not add the zodiac sign that goes on these yet. For one thing, I'm using it as an example. The reason why I didn't do that is because I looked at mines and I realized that the flow of energy is off. This is, keep in mind, this is advanced, this is new. That there's a lunar calendar and a solar calendar. And we're on their calendar, and it's not the same calendar. And where we're looking at 365 days of the week that they're talking about here right now, where they broke it down into 36, that there's other cultures. There's other cultures who are aware of that lunar calendar, who is like 360. Ain't no 365. But that goes with the earth history and how they usurp days and time and energy. That's a whole nother freaking story. But you got to keep it in the mind when you're looking at your stuff. So when I was looking at this 36, right, and it's sectioned off, I noticed how some of that under my sign, under the 11th house, seemed a little bit like it slid somewhere. And I was relating more to another one. So that part I did not do. Will take me further research to be able to feel more confident with lining it up. But the basic principles that I'm sharing, you're entitled to believe whatever it is that you choose and utilize whatever it is that you want to pick out of the vastness of so much information to use in your practical application in your daily life, to add to your spiritual principles and your own morality that you set out for yourself. Because don't think that the big boys ain't needed. We're all needed. It says that the Creator uses all things for the benefit and the workings of His purpose, of its purpose. Okay? So you can get with this or you can get with that. Is that KRS One? What? Anyway, the Ruachs is the first one they have listed is the Ruachs. So I'm going to read them with that in mind, but know that it's valid and it's pertinent to the fact that we know that energies change and flux with these deacons, and that's the energy that they were usurping, morphing, and keeping hidden from us, okay? So we have these fluctuations, and it can be seen. The water, our body is over 70% water, and some organs have more or less, right? And so it can actually be seen, the energy can be seen affecting us via through facial expressions under each sign when the deacons move. What? Just like the tide. So it's a real thing. These subtle energies, these energies are real. It can actually be noted. They didn't even notice the spirit or the deity in the room, right? Some people, until someone is mounted and you can see it manifested in the physical life. Although these things are around us all the time. And the energy. And the vastness of the negative and positive force field around us. And our interpretation with the way that we perceive things even changes our energy. From counterproductive to productive. From magnetizing to repulsive. And that movement is the female energy. The unpredictableness of life that they try to segment and compartmentalize. And now see, it should make more sense. And why, when you don't really truly understand something, in order to keep filling or giving the impression, like a magician, that you know what you're doing and saying, you must keep things in that fixed position and segment it. You can't go into different aspects and realms of conversation if you must also always present yourself as God, all-knowing, never making a mistake. You can't just be yourself and say, ah! I'm human. I'm having a human experience. I'm a light code frequency infused with a portion of God, with a portion of the Creator. I too can create. I can control my interpretation on how I look at this whole thing. And that changes my work of art, my creation. It changes This is what they said. The Deacons of the Zodiac. Yours might fit perfectly. Number 1, the Ruachs. Also, RHYX, or the Lord. He causes headaches and is dispatched by the words Michael and prison Ruachs. Number 2, Basafaral. He causes those who live in the time period to have pains in his sides of their heads. He is repelled by the words Gabriel and prison Baphael. Number 3, Arasaral. He damages eyes and is sent away by the words Uriel and prison Asharar. Art Oseal. Okay? Number 4, Baal. He causes sore throats and mucus and is thrown off by the words Raphael in prison or Frael. You can hear this in the book of Solomon. Okay? You can hear all of this in the book of Solomon. These deacons. I didn't realize when I was hearing them in the book of Solomon that these were the deacons. See, there was information segmented. I also didn't realize from our culture that angels are also the demons, and that in Revelation, it's just like one man's junk is another man's treasure. One man's God is another man's demon. It's like, what you doing, man? Were you the one who was misbehaving? Then, yeah, you who are about to get your butt whooped would think that that's a demon. You would think that your mama coming towards you with that switch about to whoop your behind is a demon. The bitch from hell. When your mama pisses you off. But when she's putting on the ointment, or when she's feeding you food, when she's doing her normal, her regular stuff, oh, then she's heaven. She's heaven on earth. Oh, then, she's the love of your life. When you marry her and you're having sex, or you look into her eyes and she gives you a baby, or you're dancing with her on the floor and you think that she's the most gorgeous, most precious, most purified thing, or most connected thing to you. One of those, if not all. Heaven on earth. And the man is the stability. That beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Look at what's been holding the male principal. Look at what has been holding her, and how he's been presenting her and looking at her. Your mother, your sister, your cousin, your woman. And he should be ashamed. But we can't make him ashamed because we're ashamed and we're partaking. We can't shun him and say a gosh darn thing unless we're willing to point out our own fault and clean up our own mess and truly really want to separate ourselves from that particular energy and the way it's manifesting on the plane. So, you can get this book, you can go to the library, you can check it out, you can find it online, you can do your research, you can look up Deacons of the Zodiac and do your thing. Dance and incorporating the spirituality, the essence of ourselves into the dance. Dance is magic. Music is magic. Crafts. The sacred arts is magic. Look at what's being used, how it's being used, and where the energy is being funneled into. And there is the usurping, okay, of the female energy of the deacons of the dance is the Shekinah. The dance, the Shekinah, the dream coat. That's the Zohar, the light or window, the rainbow coat. Associated with Gabriel, right? A gift from our ancestors, the rainbow. The rainbow. You can use rainbow, the colors of the rainbow, like I said, in order to heal. The rainbow is a sign of the covenant. Under the ark, under the dome. how we perceive things, under this place where we're learning, place of discipline. Saturn influences, right? How the alphabet is being used. Check out Bill Harbor and the dance of the Hebrew alphabet, where I left my other journals downstairs. It's the Taurus, it's the Apis, it's the apple, it's this, depicted in the form of an apple. And it shows the Taurus fields, and you know, how you can take the letters and how the dance of light within the letters manifests within our alphabet. And we use these words, and how the words, the Hebrew alphabet, is alive. It's one of the language that's alchemical, meaning that it doesn't lose its essence. Every part of it can be used, even the oink, the sound. The sound itself is healing, it's alive. And the sounds associated with color, associated with a geographical correspondence, the embedding, and the ancient knowledges and sciences are still here. And the way we internalize them is what's changing. The staff was something that was used. Now, we have the walking staff, and then we have the musical staff. What? The embedding. Our ancestors gave me a staff. They gave me a rainbow. There's times when I dance. There's a video with me doing my qigong. Oh no, I was doing sacred dance. And there's another one where I was doing my qigong. There's times when they show me a rainbow, y'all. Our ancestors, I actually get to see it. And they give you snippets, bits and pieces, and then like the road or the answers or the story kind of unfolds later on. You know, like many times I wasn't sure exactly what I was doing or what I'm doing or why I'm learning or where it's going to lead to, because this rabbit hole is so vast. This is Regina's rabbit hole. This is Siren Bodhisattva medicine. And I have to do what we call therapeutic dance, sacred dance. I call my qigong, where I utilize our sacred healing modalities and incorporate them in different ways, right? I can heal myself by returning to my family. I can hear from my spirituality, from that spiritual place, that place that has essence to fill me up, that makes me feel better. That's medicine. That's media sign. Those are the snakes. Those are the snake, leopard, goddess clans that we were told are evil and to stay away from. The woman is evil. Dance is evil. The Shekinah is evil. Why? Now you know why. They were trying to steer us away from this energy so much. And the way that it's being utilized is counterproductive most of the time. But thank goodness we are learning. So, with dance, with bare feet, in this book, it talked about many times they danced in bare feet, you know. I know some of you probably saying, yeah, because they didn't have shoes, but when you think about connecting with the earth and the ions and how that's a way to get healthy, grounding, or what they call earthing, sun gazing, communing with the elements of the planet, acknowledgement is a way to plug in, okay? It's another dimension of connecting with the energies, the subtle energies of whatever thing it is that you're interfacing with. Because we're in a holographic universe, in a holographic space. So that would mean that it changes. One of the ways of interpreting that is that it would change depending on the way that you interface with it, right? And on the way that you feel about it. You know, kind of like the placebo thing where if you don't believe that it's going to work, it won't work. And it's not working not because it won't work. It's not working because you don't believe in it, and it doesn't have to give you anything. It doesn't have to exchange energy with you. The knucklehead, that's what it's saying to me. I don't got to exchange energy with you if you don't believe in me. What am I going to do that for? Why would I spend my time forcing these energies on you of healing and of insight and all this stuff? Some people force their insights and opinions and stuff like that onto us. The images and stuff that are counterproductive, as Mama Watson was saying. African's ancient goddess, Mama Watson. The Sibyls, the Black Dog. We had many tribes. We had many different ways of living and depicting ourselves and ways of expressing. And some of that, yes, got out of hand, but some of it was beneficial. And look at us now. You can say the same thing about right now. You go with the Binyu bird, the mound, that was symbolic, leading us back to all was Africa, all was Asia. The serpents, the serpent goddesses, clans, and tribes that were so demonized here. Meanwhile, we have media sign, medicine. That's why I said the women were actually in charge of, the herbs and roots and stuff like that. Was part of our ministry, healing our families with the food and stuff, with the things that we ingested. So as things changed and we lost our influence, we lost our footing, lost our ability to present ourselves as wise, as sacred, as healing, as valuable, as useful, we were replaced by someone else's interpretation of us, Aunt Jemima. And then this information, this beautiful stuff hidden and usurped and utilized right in our face as the world turns. We were given some soap opera instead of being given tools that are actually going to help society to run in a more beneficial, more productive way. And so that is dance. And that's the Deacon and the Daena, the Shekinah. That's the wheel, the zodiac. Those are all the things that I said in these two videos that bring the synchronicity together. Well, why it's so important to fix our interpretation and heal the brokenness of the male and female energies. And it doesn't just look like boy and girl. It looks like information and creativity. Remember this guy, Pengu? Looking like the goat god, but I don't see the androgyny. But where is it that we see the androgyny? Do we have to look underneath the clothing? Or can we see it in the way that the energies pan out? Can we look at energy in a different way? I mean, we didn't really even know our own language in the Hebrew alphabet as alchemical, as a living thing, like colors and sounds and vibrations and stuff can be accessed from one particular thing, like embedding. So if we didn't notice that, and this is synonymous with the egg. I read the story yesterday. Okay, so this is Siren Buddha medicine, Siren Buddha Safa medicine. Much love to you and yours. please feel free to visit me on the YouTube, like, subscribe, share, and donate. I've got wonderful plans. I got a champagne pocketbook for us, the royal people, but I got a beer pocketbook. I got lint in my pocket. Why do I have lint in my pocket? Because we're still learning to value one another. We're still learning to balance things out. We're still learning who we are, you know. But the best part about this is that I'm not losing nothing. I'm gaining by, as a woman, listening to the voice of our ancestors as a male principle. You know, all these energies that are so much more dominant than me, that could just wipe me out and gone. That's the maleness, you know what I'm saying? The vulnerability to be in that space as a female presence and just do what I feel like I need to for my essence, you know, connecting with our Creator, you know. And from these different spaces, it becomes very beautiful. If I want to dance and mingle with the spiritual energies in that way, I can. I move the Qi energy. You know, you have Tai Chi and Qigong, okay? Those are the subtle energies, and you know, the Qi energy, the Kundalini, okay? It's the Shekinah, and it manifests in many different ways, and with it brings the mounting of spirit that moves on a wave. That's the fluctuation of frequency, right? That brings about the change of mindset, like when the beat comes, okay? So this stuff is alchemy. Don't be ashamed, you know what I'm saying, of who and what we are. Just take the reins and, you know, go back to those things that sustain us, not in a space of worship, but a space of appreciation. Do you worship your mom? Do you worship your dad? If you got a really good one, nah, in reverence and awe, like, appreciate them. How the freak did they do that? How did they get through the days in this madness? How do they still have love in this madness? How do they still give when they're tired, when they don't want to make that meal? How do they still smile and give that hug when they want to go into the corner? How does it nurture you? How does it teach you? How does it mentor you? Family. 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 Do you have any questions about this lesson? I teach from a student-teacher perspective. I feel like if you're a teacher and you're not in a space where you can still be learning, that your students are in trouble. I feel like we should all take accountability, responsibility for our own work. You know, that we inhabit and embody portions in the light of our Creator, you know, and that we can create. But we are not the one and true awesome Creator. You know what I'm saying? Make an element. Make the roots a foundation from nothing. No, you're still going to need fire, water, earth, air, and ether. You're going to need the metals. You're going to need something. And no matter what you pull from, it's still us. Because we are the embedding, and we are earth. And those things are only a more symbolic terminology for a more abstract interpretation of an entity, of something being within its own composition of atoms and particles and carbon. It's just a way of perception. And it all starts with a thought. And you're looking really good right now. Thank you for joining me. Again, it's the Siren Buddha medicine. Much love to you in yours.